So, chapter 3.5 of part 3 starts off like this. A couple hours later, after licking our thumbs and hitchhiking back to Chamonix, "We don't need to rent a room," Rick said. "Let's go back to the tavern." Ida was, of course, surprised to see us. "We got on the wrong bus," Rick announced. "We have decided to stay in Chamonix all night till tomorrow." "The first train doesn't leave till 6 in the morning," she said. She was excited to see us again. We knew we could pass the time. By now the bar had completely filled up, and there was not enough space or room to chit-chat with the busy Ida. She served us colder than snow blanches, and we called that our dinner. Seemed like half the bar had the same idea. All of those peddlers, all of those stragglers. How did we find the bar in Chamonix with the scummiest people? The times, right. Ida came back. "What's there to do tonight?" Alex asked, drunk. "There are a ton of places to dance," Ida said. "If you wait a minute, my shift's almost over. I can show you boys around." "You should give us your number," Rick said. Ida agreed, and apologized for having to run off like that, but she would make it up to us once she was done serving those Swiss bankers, silently mouthing the second word with a W instead of a B as she walked away. I paid the third round, but gave the beer to the boys. I wanted to be outside. The churning in my stomach was enough to squirt glue in all the clocks of that Alp town. Rich old couples lined the streets, lined the small shops, held hands under picturesque lamps. The thought of how older folks don't really travel with friends as often as they do with a loved one came to mind. There must be a reason you don't travel with friends after a certain age, I thought. And maybe I can sleep under that bench over there? The mountains would provide a choice, black backdrop to reflect on nothing. The boys stepped out from the bar's din with Ida between them, elbow to elbow. I found a spot on the other side of Alex, and the four of us trekked through the city. Up till that point, I had pinned Ida as the super smart, witty hostess, but as soon as we rounded a corner, the after working hours, Ida unzipped her jacket to reveal a tee with a unicorn graphic on it, and all bets were off. Not too bad. Everyone is entitled to one unicorn a day, but as the night went on, and she walked us around Chamonix to kill time before the bars closed and the clubs open, her other unicorns started to show. Her shrill voice resounded the senseless blabber that seemed to be of no short supply in her, revolving almost exclusively around the topic of how many men had hit on her that day. She went on and on and on about it. This guy this guy that. Rick and Alex oohed and ahed and booed and hurrayed for Ida at every turn. She spoke fast, shrill too. Every story about how a man had hit on her, and just that day, mind you, reminded her of another story about another time in another town. Fractally divergent her tangents were, and it never occurred to me why she was pissing me off. For the longest time after that night, I thought it was because she was between Rick and Alex, while I was nowhere near them, as far away that night as I would be in Spain a month later. But really, nah, because Ida and I would connect soon after that stupid, meaningless walk. There had to be another reason, something irrelevant to the moment, or something relevant to the timelessness I had experienced on the bus ride into Chamonix, and yet had lost during the bustle to and fro to find a bar, and the convos and getting lost and hitchhiking back to where it had all happened. And now I was drunk, big surprise. And then it would hit me weeks later like a beer bottle smashed into my cranium. The end of timelessness is the progression of forward movement. That's it. And Ida just wanted to feel connected and significant like anybody else. Her storytelling had pissed me off because I thought she was being selfish by talking about herself. But the truth is something completely different. Talking about yourself is giving yourself. She wasn't being selfish, she was trying to connect. Gibran had a thing or two to say about talking, and if I may, he and I agree. There are no two must-needs about it. Talk, speak, sing. Tell your story. B. B. Suddenly, somehow, Ida and I opened our eyes and we were staring at each other, 1 foot off the ground, barefoot over wet grass, under moonlight, at the edge of a river, doing Tai Chi of all things, which I had never done before but felt like it would come back to me later in life. Our palms, meanwhile, were an inch apart, our hearts locked, and our feet taking turns folding upward. And Rick and Alex to the side, probably making fun of us, but I didn't care. And I felt her energy that night, under the moonlight. In her eyes I saw between the ripples of irises and the shades of humanity. I saw myself. I felt my eyes billow with smoke just looking at her, a tingling sensation flooding upwards from the soles of my feet to my diaphragm lit on fire. It was hard to breathe, but Ida shushed me. She calmed me with some words that reminded me no one else was there. Not Ida, not Mikhail, not even the world. Only our bodies, perhaps a prison, maybe motionless, and the edges of my sight peeling like a banana. I confessed how I had unlocked my genetic chakra a few months prior on a balcony in Austin, and I showed her how with my hands. She seemed to like it, but asked me kindly to talk about something with substance. So I told her how I felt listening to her talk about so many dudes that evening. She apologized, and then I apologized, and then I asked her a question. Can I kiss you? She leaned in close and sparked our bangs with static electricity. No, she said, I can't. I want to, but I can't. She explained in detail the story of a man who had come to Chamonix, picked her up and promised her Swiss gold and horseback rides along the Italian countryside and month-long voyages across the Aegean and other random lies. If only his watch had been less real, or his cologne less impressive, or anything else that holds a pedestal under a hollow man. She wished she could take it all back, but she was immature, and she was young, and in a sense we all are. Her other stories in the higher state of consciousness began to make sense, and I thought about why someone, a woman, a man, anybody, would feel the need to blabber on about all the romantic encounters they have had in their life, and whether or not the stories were true is irrelevant, transient, or coming of age, like I believed it was in Ida's case. Then this doesn't even matter, because a person in the first quarter of her life can well feel heartbroken, shielded, jaded, in want yet untouching, untrusting yet reckless. If only I had known this earlier, because why would anyone believe you when you say the big I love you, if you've deflated those 3 words over the course of a miserable love life? Can anyone separate love from sex, sex from love? And would one actually find love? And should one actually find love, how can one prove that there is but one heart for the one person? By being casual, that's how most do it. Ka, eschew, all. Blah. The inability to become intimate is a brittle mask that hides fragility. It's true that falling in love leaves you exhausted, but between that and apathy, file me under humility, bruh. I understand, I told her. Can I kiss you anyway? Part of her tried to read me, but she couldn't. No one can, unless they take their time. I don't get you, she said. What's there to get? I like you. If I kissed you, then what? Will we ever see each other again? Rick flashed before my eyes. A thought as cold as the Chihuahuan desert flashed before my eyes too. No idea, I said. Probably not. This is all that exists to me. This. Though I wasn't kidding about wanting to read your blog. I think you're interesting. That doesn't mean any more than it sounds. Take me at face value. We're being real, right? She smiled. Thank you. For the truth, she said. And hey, we put our hands down and the melting world caked itself over, spun around again, let rivers flow and music blast from a nearby club. The boys behind us had bought a 6-pack. Maybe things would turn out all right for us. Next time, don't ask. Just go for it. Oof. Yikes. So the boys get on the wrong bus. They hitchhike back to Chamonix. They meet up with Ida and they see her true colors when she's blabbering about all the men she's been with. This leads to an epiphany in Mikhail because he's been doing the same, no? Talking about all the girls he's hooked up with. Yeah, I kind of got some goosebumps 2 pages before the end. And I feel like this book could be more of those moments of the reflections in one another's eyes. Yeah, so end of chapter 3. We'll stop here, and I will see you in the next chapter.